introduction might be like also for us to think about how this could be productively not pulled together. And this is so raw and it's so beginning and it's something that's really just kind of so new that it could really begin to move very freely in a lot of different directions. And I think that it would be particularly helpful with a piece that's so new, that's open to think about what those openings might be, less in terms of like, oh, you should do this with that story, but rather like what some of the structural ideas are that Phoebe is trying to work with, also some of the narrative ideas that you're trying to work with, and then how they might be further complicated, and so that's something to keep in mind too. I think the movement back and forth, and I think you've all read this, of texts that are moving back and forth between time and also fiction and so-called nonfiction, and how they relate and interlock, and can continue to do so maybe in a way that's again like further complicates some of those things. Is one of the things at least we've talked about. Kind of.
Can we just assume that comment is the subtext of the entire program?
I want no great wonder when it's hanging there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just want to say one more thing to further answer your question, Rachel. I think that I was trying to more directly than I usually do, answer my own inquiries in this piece. My problem, like you've referred to before, the problem I'm writing about. I was trying to talk about it more meet it more directly.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Okay.
That's great.
I'm gonna start from the beginning. This isn't really a story; it's an attempt at a story.
The Earth is actually flat. It rests on the back of a world turtle, which itself is propped up by a chain of larger and larger turtles. How many other turtles rest upon the backs of the smaller and larger turtles existing on either side of the turtle we stand upon is unknown. I read that sea turtles are the only animals living in the ocean that still swim to the ocean's surface to breathe oxygen. Gulp, slurp. Then it descends back into the depths and assumes a docile posture as cleaner fish peck algae from its shell and effectively clean the turtle's back. The turtle feels a tingling, ticklish sensation as it arches its shell and lowers its fins towards the reef. Sea turtles mate in groups. They have long believed in free love. Female turtles lay hundreds of eggs, which are usually fertilized by multiple male sexual partners to ensure the brood's DNA is diverse. This is one of the many tricks sea turtles have used to survive in the oceans for 65 million years. Sea turtles swam amongst the dinosaurs. Despite this long survival, the past 50 years have shown a dramatic decline in sea turtle populations. Experts estimate ocean populations have declined by 48 to 75%, and research suggests the numbers continue to dwindle across the globe. 10 years ago, researchers discovered a new lethal disease affecting wild sea turtle populations: herpes. The herpes virus affecting sea turtles affects those in warmer waters and those living in stressful habitats. The disease is thought to come from a particular overcrowded sea turtle farm. The farm raises turtles for human consumption. It's found on one of the British ruled Cayman Islands. I watched Ice Cold Gold on a flight from New York City to New Mexico. As I watched the show, I imagined Georgia O'Keeffe painting a portrait of a sea turtle swimming through the ocean's depths. In my dream, she painted an abstracted herpes virus sore billowing off the sea turtle's body. She titled the piece, "The 21st Century Sea Turtle." A well-known scientist and self-declared terrorist to Western thought, Bertrand Russell, an early supporter of free love, Russell gave a public lecture on astronomy after winning the Nobel Prize for Science and Astronomy in 1937. He described how the Earth orbits the Sun and how the Sun, in turn, orbits a vast collection of stars called our galaxy. He also proposed a theory that our universe came to life through a cosmic event, now referred to as the Big Bang. The story goes, at the end of the lecture, a little old lady got up and said, "Mr. Russell, what you have told us is a load of old rubbish. It is nothing like that at all. The world is a flat plate, and it is supported on the back of a giant turtle. So there." Russell is said to have given a superior smile before replying, "I thank you for that, but please, could you tell me what is holding up the giant turtle?" The lady replied, "You think you're very clever, young man, very clever indeed, but now I know you don't know anything at all. You see, everyone knows the answer to that. It's turtles all the way down." She went on to challenge Russell to prove her wrong, then asked if he was around at the time of the Big Bang, and if he'd been to outer space and seen for himself that the Earth was in fact round, as he claimed. Russell replied with a quizzical no to both answers. Russell claimed both he and the lady weren't actually right or wrong, but she claimed they thought and believed different things, and neither Bertrand Russell nor the room had a response. And then, and forever thereafter, the phrase, "turtles all the way down," has been held in the West as a possibility.
We're going to start over. Working title.
The name of this poem is How to Write a Poem About Ferguson.
Or the name of this poem is How a Black Man Dies and No One Makes a Sound.
Or the name of this poem is Everywhere is Ferguson.
Or the name of this poem is When the Moon Rise Sounds Like Gunshots.
Or the name of this poem is How to Teach Your Babies to Walk and Not Run Ever.
Or how to teach your babies to carry a wallet the size of your smile.
Or the name of this poem is How Not to Smile and Make Yourself a Target.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write a Poem the Same Size of Emmett Till's Lungs After They Pulled Him from the Tallahatchie River.
Or How to Write a Poem About America's Thirst.
Or the name of this poem is Black Blood'll Keep You Thirsty.
Or the name of this poem is I'm Still Thirsty, an American Horror Story.
Or How to Write an Escape Route from a Tornado.
Or How to Write an Escape Route When the Tornado's Name is Stop and Frisk.
Or How to Walk the Streets Without Fearing Someone Will Cut Your Neck Open.
Or How to Walk into a Boardroom Without Fearing Someone Will Cut Your Legacy Open.
Or How to Walk Without Asking for It.
Or How to Walk Without Asking for It.
Or How to Determine What Asking for It Looks Like.
Or How Asking for It Feel Like a Church Bombing.
Or the name of this poem is How to Not Intimidate Nobody in 3 Small Steps.
Or How to Use Your Science Books as Teflon and How That Still Might Not Work.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write About the One Time You Held a Gun.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write About the One Time You Had a Gun Pointed to Your Face.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write About the One Time You Had a Gun Pointed to Your Face.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write About the One Time You Had a Gun Pointed to Your Face.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write the One Time You Had a Gun Pointed to Your Face.
Or How to Write a Poem from the Perspective of a Cop's Gun. Or How to Write a Poem from the Perspective of a Cop's taser. Or How to Write a Poem from the Perspective of a Cop's gun. Or How to Write a Poem from the Perspective of a Cop's boot. Or How to Write a Poem from the Perspective of a Cop's baton.
Or the name of this poem is How to Write a Poem Without Repeating Yourself. No, the name of this poem ain't got no name. It's a series of numbers. At night, the numbers warn me sweetly. You should be afraid of having a son. Thanks, guys.
The article is basically kind of summarizing all MFA programs as being built around the Iowa workshop model, and we have kind of created ourselves as being actually an MFA program that has kind of really purposefully discarded the workshop model in favor of this thing that's happening right here, both in terms of how work is talked about and how we kind of define ourselves as a program. So that was kind of interesting to see that article come through, and Rachel and I wrote a letter in response to the journalist, which we should actually have Stephen maybe post on the Tumblr site, kind of basically outlining where the article really didn't even bother to scratch the surface of our website, but also kind of writing in a way that also invited the journalist to like dig deeper and maybe even write something further about that aspect. But it started a conversation between us, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. In fact, I thought about it in the very naming in the beginning of designing this program, which is like, why is this called the Pratt MFA in Writing, and why is this not called the Pratt MFA in Writing and Activism, Pratt MFA in Writing and Social Practice, Pratt MFA in Writing and Social Active, any number of different kind of possible iterations that Pratt MFA in Writing and Social Justice, or etc. And one of the things that I was thinking about was partly like my my desire for a generic term that would kind of absorb the energy of actually what everyone is creating out of this program, such that it would recode that generic term with actually and communicate what this program is all about, rather than sort of front-loading that to begin with a term that announced itself maybe in a way that it would remain to be seen whether the program actually performed some of those things. It's also like a question of like institutions. Like, do you want to, what does it mean to institutionalize within an institution a word like activism, and have that be something that's broadcast right at the title of the program? If we are working within this definition of, say, accomplices, if we're working in this definition that is maybe moving both towards some relationship to the word activism that also, I would say, includes revolution.
The other day I was doing the dishes, and very suddenly I started to cry. I had heard a voice say to me, "You're indestructible." All of us, music swells, we find a way to analyze what is out of our control. Dreaming used to feel like falling into a deep hole, but now it feels like I'm peppered into 1,000 pieces. I'm many, and I'm afraid, not of the scatter, but to find the pieces, to wake up and not be able to find them. Into a new housing complex that lets in women only if they agree to have their blood pressure checked 20 times a day. "What's this procedure for?" I ask the attendant. All I know about him is that his name is Krish and that his whole family waits for him in India. This is just one of my many questions, but I seem to find that the answer to each one contains some delusion, some way to scramble me around. Days in here I start to wonder if what's outside my window is real, if that building is a hospital or a school. Was my road always paved with stone? Was there always that flag? First they have to kill us, then they have to become what we were. No one's able to find their doctor's office. Their doctor is an actor. Their actor is buying out the neighborhood. Produce in the carts are plastic. The taut red skin, the fresh cloth leaves, a sheen of sunlight on a headache. "I have no idea," says Krish, applying pressure. We don't even record the results.
Like, for example, when I arrived in Santiago this time, my mother is 90 years old and she's very strong and healthy, but she was ailing and she couldn't walk, she couldn't do this, couldn't grab anything. She had developed a new disease that makes people not being able to grip or stand. Some people never get healed, and I somehow felt that I have to do something to bring my mother back to life. Of course, I didn't know what on earth to do, and it was really terrible. I was spare you all the things, but in any case, a moment came when I realized I had to create an instance, because my mother is a wonderful singer, and I invited a group of women to sing together, and I made my mother part of this circle, and it was like 10 women we didn't rehearse, we met and we performed in public, and my mother was healed. What healed her? It's so beautiful what happened. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. You can hold each other's hands. So I began singing like a strange sound. And I ask everybody to join. Please join. That was a practical way to show you when I did that with my mother. I suddenly felt my mother's arms started to go like that. After that, she could grab things again. So where did that energy come from? Started to go like that. From the hearts of all those women. Do you think I ever said a word about my mother? Never. That was not me. You would look at my mother now, you would never even dream that she was so sick 2 months ago.
Also, it like gives you energy and it's like
a fly
yeah,
with like a bee on it.
it does a bunch of stuff for you.
Is it white?
It's like yellowish. They're like little yellow balls, basically. Yeah.
Random FA just smoking.